Welcome to the channel, guys. So today's video is going to be a pros and cons video when it comes to snowblowers versus ATV plowing. Now, I have a lot of experience with doing both, so I decided to make a video sharing you kind of my tips and tricks and what works for me especially, and what could work for you as well. So I want to discuss the pros and cons of each, because there is pros and cons between these machines. So I have probably over 15 years experience snowblowing and ATV plowing and different types of equipment, and my setup right now I'm really happy with. I will admit that I use the ATV plow more often. That's because it's just easier and quicker for me. I have a really big driveway. It's about 800 feet long, and it's a lot of snow. But I do use a snowblower still, which is a Honda SxS 1332 track drive walk behind. I still use that when it snows a lot. So if I get a lot of heavy snowfall, like say over 15 inches, that's when I'll use the Honda, and usually towards the end of the season, because I have all these snowbanks built up by the ATV plow. So I want to end up throwing the snow versus pushing the snow. But I'm going to get into the list right now. I have it on my computer here. That way I can keep track of all my my notes and factors that I want to talk about. This is a new setting here. You might see this more often now. This is my office. I just repainted it, and it looks great, and making it into a nice space for myself. But anyways, I have it on my computer here, and I'm gonna start with the snowblower pros. And so number one is gonna be smaller and much more nimble. That's kind of a given there. Smaller piece of equipment, you can get into smaller walkways, get into tighter areas, and be able to blow that snow efficiently. The next factor when it comes to pros of a snowblower can be that it can actually throw snow versus just pushing it around your driveway or your lot. That's kind of important depending on the setup. If you're in a city or you're in a rural area where you have plenty of room to push the snow, that's something to consider. So that's a benefit of the snowblower. It can have precision when it comes to throwing and discharging snow in a certain location if you have to. You can't do that with the ATV plow. You're always pushing it to one side or the other, and hopefully you have enough room on your lawn or your sidewalk, whichever it is. The next pro for the snowblower will be that it can chew through deeper snow. Now, an ATV can be set up to push snow over snow with tracks along with the plow, but normally people have just regular wheels, rubber tires. But when it comes to certain snowblowers, like the Honda that I have, I can chew through deeper snow, and I can even chew through somewhat hardened snowbanks with it because it has serrated augers. So the snowblower is going to be able to chew through deeper and taller snow, where the ATV will make a mess because you're going to have to make a bunch of different passes, and stuff's just going to go everywhere. So that's a pro of the snowblower. It can chew through snowbanks, chew through snow. Usually that is taller. Now, the next pro of a snowblower is it's less of a cost, of initial cost. If you just need that piece of equipment, it can range. Snowblowers cost anywhere from, $200 used to $4,000 plus. The Honda makes a 36-inch hybrid, which is like $8,000, something like that. Great machine, but it's all what you need. You don't want to buy too much of a snowblower if you have a little driveway. Usually those bigger snowblowers, bigger width and stuff like that, is meant for wider passes, bigger areas, bigger lots. But it all depends on how much you have to spend and what kind of snow you have to take care of. So it's all balances into the outcome. But usually it's a less of a cost. My Hondas were about $3,000 when I bought them. So I bought them brand new. So didn't want to mess with anything used, even though those are also a good idea for most people. But I have experience with the Honda as a brand new machine. So moving on to the next one will be that the snowblower takes up less space. That's an awesome kind of benefit. When you have just the snowblower that you have to use, it takes up a lot less storage space in your shed, in your garage, wherever you store it. I keep mine inside, always in the garage. Heated space, stays in excellent condition. It'll last like that for 30 years plus and won't give me any issues. Stays away from insects, mice, all sorts of different critters. So taking up less space is very important to some people. To some it doesn't matter. To me, I have both. So I have room enough for the ATV, the plow, and the snowblower for storage. So if you live in the city, a home that doesn't have as much space or a garage that's kind of limited for space, snowblower is a good idea because you'll have less of an issue storing it because it's a lot smaller footprint. So those are 5 pros of the snowblower. Now we're going to go on to 5 cons of the snowblower. So the first one is, as I'm reading off my list here, don't mind me. So it's much slower than ATV plowing. This is absolutely true. And this is why I tend to favor ATV plowing over snow blowing, is because it takes a lot longer to do. You're basically walking behind the machine, and usually you can't go that fast because you have to allow the snow to dictate how much you can actually, have in your forward speed to have an efficient discharge pattern. Excuse me. So you're limited by how tall the snow is. Obviously, that tall snow is going to require you to go slower because it has to process that volume of snow and discharge it. If you have, say, 1 to 2 inches, 3, 4 inches, you can go a lot faster. You can kind of, breeze through that snow. But usually when it's time to use a snowblower, for me at least, it's going to be a lot of snow. So 12 inches plus 15 inches, somewhere in that neighborhood. Especially if it's heavy snow that's 15 plus inches. That's not cool. It's going to be kind of a mess with the ATV, but it can be done. You're just going to have more patience, and it still can be done especially if you have a lot of room to push that snow around. So another con of the snowblower is it's not as fun as the ATV with the plow. Now, ATV with the plow is just a lot more fun. I think it is, at least. You get some time on the machine, and it just feels more fun. All right, so moving on to the next con of the snowblower is that it is also another thing you have to take care of. So oil, filter, possibly, depending on what make and model. Skid shoes, scraper bar, anything else that goes on with it. If you need hydraulic fluid, or hydrostatic fluid, I should say. There's all different types of snowblowers out there. They all require different things. So those are all things you have to consider. If you already have an ATV, you don't have to worry about that. You just have to buy the plow and then just kind of, make it work and operate your ATV with that. You're already going to be taking care of your ATV. So that's one thing to consider. You're always going to have to keep up with the maintenance and those wearable items, those consumables, and they do wear out. You don't want to run your skid shoes to the point where they just completely wear out and then you're grinding into the bottom of your auger housing and ruining that, because you don't want to do that because that's a pricey item. So still things you got to consider with the snowblower when it comes to costs. All right, so moving along, the next con for the snowblower is you need to be in good shape. I don't recommend it for someone that is not that good in shape, like an older person, elderly person that doesn't have a lot of arm strength or balance, because sometimes you need to manhandle that snowblower, depending on what machine you have, in order to steer it. Whether it's a tracked machine or a wheeled machine, you still have to have some kind of input with your arms, a lot of upper body strength and balance. So some people might have an issue with that, you know? So you have to be in good physical shape, because I will say, even though my machine has steerable tracks on the Honda, I still have to put input. I feel more like worked out after using the snowblower versus an ATV plow, which you just, you sit on top of the ATV and go. There's always just going to be more work there, so there's kind of no way around it. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend it for a person that is not in good shape. Another thing is, when using a snowblower, I use yak tracks because you can be on slippery surface, and that's also not a good thing if you're not in good shape, because you're not going to have good reaction time and not good balance, stuff like that, and it might catch you off guard and you might slip and fall. So that's something also to consider. You have to be in good physical shape, I would say, to be an effective kind of system with the snowblower. But if you don't have a lot of area to do, it's less of a factor. It's more of a factor because I have to do 800 feet of driveway, 20 to 30 feet wide at some point. So it's a lot of passes. So it does wear on you. So the very last con for a snowblower would be that it needs a minimum amount of snow to work properly. Now, some machines, this happens more so than others. If you have, just say, a light dusting or 1 inch, 2 inches, that's a lot of possible driveway to do just for 1 to 2 inches. And your snowblower might, choke up depending if it's wet or slushy. But most snowblowers like to operate with larger volumes of snow being processed through it. So that allows for the impeller to work properly and to scoop it out and to shoot it out the chute, and just to have kind of its normal digestion and go in the machine in and out the way it's supposed to. If you're just plowing snow with a snowblower versus actually throwing snow or snow blowing, it tends to build up on the auger. It's going to stick, and it's just not fun when you have to snow blow, an inch or two of snow. It's terrible. It's a lot easier with the ATV because you just, breeze back and forth, drop the blade and go back and forth, and you're done. And it's not that much work. It just feels like a lot more work with the snowblower when you have to do just a little dusting or whatever. But that covers the snowblower pros and cons. Now let's go off to the ATV pro and cons. All right, so moving along, the first pro when it comes to ATV plowing is that it's much more fun than a snowblower. I think I already said that, but that is definitely a pro of the ATV with the plow. Another thing I mentioned, which is the next pro of an ATV with plow, is that it is much quicker. Just a lot more fun, and you'll get done that much more quicker. And you can go off and do other things in the day. You don't have to, labor yourself down for 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on how big your driveway is with a snowblower, because you're gonna have to do shoveling and other miscellaneous stuff as well, spread salt. It's just a lot quicker when it comes to snow removal, period. There's just no better way of doing it. ATV Plow Pro is less strain on your body, so that's the third one. Like I mentioned before, the snowblower kind of is more inputs from your body. You need to be in more physical shape. The ATV is the opposite. You're basically sitting down and you're just steering the machine, operating the controls, and you don't have to be on foot. You're in a comfortable seat most of the time. My ATV is very comfortable. I like plowing on it. It's like driving a Cadillac. I have a Polaris XP1000 with a 66-inch Glacier Pro HD. And but moving along, so the next thing is easy cleanup of a small amount of snow. We already talked about that. So as you know, snowblower is not the best at picking up just 1 to 2 inches. It can be done, obviously, but the ATV is just that much more quicker. It can be in and out, and you're off and ready to go to work or leave, do whatever you need to do for the day. Next pro for the ATV is that it's a very capable machine. Obviously, it can still do a lot of snowfall. I would say its limit is really 15 inches or less. Anything more than 15 inches, I would probably go to the snowblower. Just because you would have to keep track of the snowfall and get out there more frequently to keep up with the passes. Because if you just let it build up, say 24 inches of snow, and then try to get out there with the ATV, it's going to be a complete mess. I've done it before, and it's just, it feels like you're doing 3 times the amount of passes because you're making a pass and the snow's just falling in, and it feels like you're not getting anything done. But it's a very capable system and setup. Big plow. I have a poly edge on my plow, which actually raises the plow up 1.5 inches than stock. So that gives you more push, more plowing ability. And my machine can handle it no problem. What's the next pro when it comes to ATVs? Next pro would be, so adding the plow is a smaller cost than going out and buying a snowblower possibly. Now this all varies, okay? There's plows out there for $400, and there's ones like mine which have the electric hydraulic unit on it for power angle and stuff that cost, I think I paid about $1,000, maybe $1,100 for it. I can't remember, but it's up there. It's over $1,000. Some people might be able to get a snowblower for cheaper. So I don't know. It all depends on how much you want to spend, but you get what you pay for. There's no beating around the bush. You buy a nice plow setup, you're going to have a pleasant experience, and you're not going to have to get off the machine a bunch of times. So initially it could be a smaller cost instead of going out and buying another snowblower on top of the ATV. I have both. I enjoy using both, so I think it's the best of both worlds, honestly. It kind of sucks to have either one or the other, because there's benefits of both, obviously. But like I said, I tend to go to the ATV first for snowfalls versus a snowblower. That's usually towards the end of the season where the snowbanks build up. All right, so let's go on to the cons of ATV plowing. So very high initial cost, obviously. You need a plow and a machine. Now this can vary from a few $1,000s to possibly close to $20,000 now when it comes to buying a machine plus a plow system. My ATV and plow, I think when I walked out the door at the dealership, everything brand new was about $15,000 with a 5-year warranty. ATV was about $13,000, and the rest was between plow and warranty. So you're gonna require much more heavier duty funds to kind of have that nice effective system when it comes to ATV plowing. If you have a used ATV and you buy a used plow, you can save some money. Obviously, it's a great idea. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be aware that stuff does wear out, and you want to make sure that plow's in good shape. Make sure the frame's not all chewed up and scraped away from people not changing out the skid plates. I mean the skid shoes. But essentially, it's a higher cost than just buying a snowblower. But if you can afford both, I highly recommend having both. Okay, using 2 tools when you need them is awesome, honestly. Okay. Next would be more wear and tear, extra maintenance, and consumables. So the same thing that happens to a snowblower, those maintenance items and those wearables have the same effect on the ATV plow. Your ATV plow scraper edge or cutting edge is going to wear out. You want to keep an eye on that because that's going to save your frame on your plow. You don't want to let that go all the way down and cut into the frame and then start grinding away at welds in the structural integrity of the plow. Keep some skid shoes on there as extra insurance so you don't rely just on the cutting edge. There's all sorts of trains of thought on this. I run both because I want extra insurance, a lot more surface area, still cleans up great, no problem. But every situation, every setup, every driveway is different. depending on what you're snow plowing. So, but it's going to wear and tear on your machine as well. So more weight on your front end, more weight on the clutching. So if you have a CVT or PVT, belt, it might wear down on that. Make sure you're in low gear. But usually I have no issues with mine. I don't see accelerated belt wear, but it is something to consider. It all depends on your riding style and how you treat the machine and your maintenance intervals. But there's a slightly higher cost than I would say the snowblower, just inherently, because it's a bigger piece of equipment, more moving parts, always a possibility of stuff breaking quicker. Oh, actually, things that do break on the plow. So on my Polaris, I go through synthetic winch ropes like crazy. And actually not like crazy, but I've gone through like 3 ropes already, synthetic winch ropes, because of the wear and tear of going in and out. Now I use these off season for mudding and trail riding and getting pulled out and recovering other ATVs. Now, I'm not gonna put a strap on it like some people recommend, because it's just it's stupid, because I'm not gonna limit my winch now to only 8 feet, 10 feet, or whatever the hell it is. But the synthetic winch lines, they do wear out because of plowing. I'm still trying to figure out a more permanent solution. It seems like I'm gonna have to run 2 separate winch cables, full 50 feet. One for when I'm plowing in the winter season, and then take that one off, and then for the rest of the year, run the nice heavy duty, more expensive cable for recovery and doing normal stuff. So that's something to think about. Wear and tear on your plow and your machine. It's a very real thing. The next con for ATV plowing is it's a bigger piece of equipment and it's not as nimble. So that's just a given. You're not going to be able to get into tight spaces that you would with a snowblower. So it's just a bigger amount of machine, and sometimes that's not good. So it all depends on what you're doing. And then the very last con would be the obvious one. You can only push snow and not throw it. So you have to have a space to deposit snowbanks and stuff like that. Push that snow out of the way. As the season goes on, towards February, March, I tend to see my driveway shrinking and my areas shrinking because of all the snow plowing and building up of snowbanks here and there. Now, if you have plenty of space, that's not an issue. But if you live in the city, you can't do that. You're not going to have enough space. I've done both. I've lived in the city and I live now in a rural area. So I can tell you, in the city, snowblowers, they excel. They are the #1 choice. But if you have more space to actually push your snow out onto your lawn, onto different areas, and you can make it through the whole winter season without snowing yourself in or plowing yourself in, then that's something always to consider. That's just one drawback of plowing, no matter if you do it with a truck or an ATV. Same thing, side by side, doesn't matter what kind of machine you have it attached to, you will slowly block yourself in eventually with the snowbanks. Both pieces of equipment are great. I have both, like I said. I enjoy using both. I usually start off the season with the snowplow, and then I start mixing in that snowblower towards the end, because the snow starts getting heavy, start getting heavier snowfalls, and I just like having both. I have no regrets. It is kind of pricey, but I bought it in increments, so it's not that big of a deal to me. But check out my other playlists. I have a ton of Honda snowblower stuff, lots of mods and upgrades, and talk about different things. I have some more coming up as well. I have a lot of Polaris sportsman related videos if you're into that. Plowing, ATV riding, trail riding, all sorts of crazy stuff, mudding. But that's all I have for today. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please place them right down below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.